I'm going to take a look at gold in today's video. So we've had three trades in metals recently. Um, we got in right here at the bottom of this intermediate cycle low and got out early morning on this day here. So we had a pretty decent trade on this one. And then when gold, I was expecting a bounce off of this support zone. This is the intermediate cycle low. So we got in here and again got out pretty quickly. It, had become pretty clear that the banks were going to left translate this intermediate cycle. So at that point, you've got to convert to a very short-term mindset on your trades because the intermediate cycle is declining. So rallies are counter trend affairs, and they don't typically last too long before they roll over and turn back down. But we did catch this advancing part of the intermediate cycle. We did catch a decent little trade right here as we bounced off of this support, but I was expecting that support to break, and it did, and that gave us what looks to be, anyway, a final bloodbath phase. The caveat is that this is occurring really early in this intermediate cycle. Usually an intermediate cycle won't bottom until week 20 to 25. This was week 12 or 13, I believe. So a bit early, but we did have what appears to be a bloodbath phase when this support zone here at 1760-ish broke. We got in and again racked up a decent little profit on the bounce out of this daily cycle low, and then got back on the sidelines again under the assumption that that there was a possibility anyway that the intermediate cycle was going to have to take a few more weeks before it was done, and that this might break. But the first test of this support right here would almost certainly produce, at least another short-term bounce. So when we got that Wednesday morning, we bought. My suggestion was just to buy miners first thing Wednesday morning for another bounce. My expectation at the time, although that's we'll have to see what happens on Monday, but I may give up on this expectation. But my original expectation was that this was going to be a bounce off of this support zone, and then it would roll over and make another lower low, and that would be our final intermediate cycle low. So let me move over to the miners. All right. So we got in, and I posted a video here as this was forming. I said, we've got a potential bottom forming right here. The miners are not following gold to a lower low. So we got in here and we caught a nice little bounce, but we got out of this at the 50-day moving average. That's where we took profits. It's just this has been a pretty difficult resistance zone for price to get through, and when it does, it hasn't been able to hold. So we got in down here, we took our profits right here, and then we got on the sidelines to see if that 50-day moving average, if price could get above it, and it couldn't. And then, like I said, on that retest of that support zone, that's where we bought again. So we bought first thing Wednesday morning at the open, and we've got a decent little profit here in 2 days. And my suggestion was, maybe you want to take profits again at this 50-day moving average, and then see how we open on Monday, because Mondays are just a prime day for the cartel to attack gold. They usually try and hit it every Monday. So, if that's the case, if we have an attack in the pre-market Monday before the open and they've knocked gold back down, then we can kind of sit on the sidelines and then see if if gold can negate that attack and close back at or close to the highs Monday. And if they do, then I would say we've probably got our bottom. This was probably an intermediate bottom. Also note that while gold um, pretty much fully tested this early March low, the miners are showing some relative strength and have held a bit above the low. So another potential bullish sign here. And going back to gold, we also have a bullish break of the intermediate downtrend line. So we're starting to get some bullish signals that maybe this was a final intermediate cycle low. Now this seems a bit short to me for a completed daily cycle low. This was only 17 days. They usually last anywhere from 35 to 50. So I'm not prepared to go all in and say that this is a final intermediate cycle low and this was a retest and we're off to the races. I'll need to see a little bit more follow through before I'm ready to make that call. But in the meantime, we've got a nice little trade, and we've had three really good trades in the metals, even though this intermediate cycle left translated, and even though we were trading from the long side in the declining phase of an intermediate cycle. Now we're just waiting for a little more confirmation to try and determine whether or not this is going to be a final intermediate cycle low, and if this is just a double bottom retest of that, and now we're ready to start the advancing phase of the next intermediate cycle in earnest. And if that's the case, then we should be able to get into some long positions and hold them for a lot longer than just a couple of days. The advancing phase of the intermediate cycle should probably last another 10 to 15 weeks, if that's the case. But like I said, I'm not completely convinced that's the case just yet. I'm expecting an attack on Monday to drive gold back below this trend line. And if the bulls can come in and negate that attack, keep gold above this trend line, then I'm going to start leaning more in the on the side that this is a final intermediate cycle low, and that this was just a difficult first daily cycle, which I warned people was probably going to happen here when we got our bottom right here. I warned people not to take leverage in the metals because there's metals just bottom different than stocks. Stocks usually rocket shot out of the intermediate cycle low in a V pattern. Gold will often kind of churn for several weeks, even as much as 2 months before finally getting some momentum to the upside. So, we were not caught by surprise by this, what has unfolded out of this bottom. So now we're just need a little bit more confirmation to try and determine whether or not this really is a double bottom, and we're now starting the advancing phase of the intermediate cycle.